What if the ocean was transparent? Imagine for a moment standing at the edge of the world's great oceans, staring into what was once an endless expanse of opaque blue-green water. Today, everything changes. Imagine that, in an instant, the oceans become perfectly, dazzlingly transparent. No haze, no murk, not even the soft blue tint that arises as sunlight scatters through water. Instead, you can see straight through all the way to the bottom, all the life, the secrets, the ancient remains scattered atop abyssal plains, and the scarred landscape of the seafloor itself. What would that mean for the world, for us, and for every creature that calls the vast underwater realm home? Let's take this idea apart, exploring the science, the consequences, and the awe-inspiring discoveries that would follow if the ocean became as clear as glass. First, think about what it currently means for the ocean to be opaque. Water, by nature, does transmit light, especially in the shallow zones, where sunlight can penetrate to a depth of roughly 200 meters, creating the sunlit photic zone. Below that, a dim blue twilight gradually fades to blackness, obscuring mysteries on the bottom of even moderately deep seas. The opacity is not just a property of water's chemistry. It's also a result of everything dissolved and floating in it: microscopic plankton, clouds of sediment, drifting organic matter, and sometimes the powdered dust of distant continents. But in this thought experiment, in an instant, all of these obstacles are swept away. Light passes through hundreds, even thousands of meters of water as easily as it passes through air or the most pristine crystal. If we could stand on a cruise ship or lean out from the cliffs overlooking the ocean, the view beneath our feet would be nothing short of revelatory. Even in waters thousands of meters deep, the entire vertical column becomes one immense, living diorama. Sunlight, no longer swallowed or scattered, plummets straight to depths previously never warmed or revealed. Imagine gazing down from a bridge across the North Atlantic and spotting not just jellyfish in the upper layers, but the monstrous, rarely seen creatures of the midnight zone swirling meters above ancient shipwrecks. The glowing dots of bioluminescent organisms might look after dark like city lights sprawling across the seafloor, framed by titanic smoking hydrothermal vents. Submarine canyons and ancient riverbeds, lost mountaintops, and the shifting scars of tectonic ridges would all be visible, like peering through the shallow lens of a rock pool on a beach. The deep sea's mysteries would, in a sense, be laid bare. The aesthetic shift is powerful, but the effects on nature itself would explode with consequences both immediate and profound. The sun's visible spectrum, which previously faded into darkness well before reaching the seafloor, would now drive illumination, and thus photosynthesis, down to the deepest trenches. Algae and marine plants, which today are restricted to the upper sunlit zone, might suddenly colonize areas far deeper, absorbing the newly available light. A cascading ecological upheaval would ensue, as entirely new habitats opened to sunlight and oxygen. Species evolved for eternal night might be stunned, blinded, displaced, or outcompeted by interlopers from the glowing surface world. Creatures adapted for camouflage against the dim blue-violet depths could find themselves exposed, visible to predators and prey alike. The giants of the deep, such as sperm whales, colossal squids, and goblin sharks, would become as exposed and vulnerable as deer in a cleared forest. Surface conditions, too, would change. People on every continent would rush to gaze out over these new crystal depths, witnessing wonders previously imagined only by scientists crawling along the bottom in submarines. Public fascination with the ocean would soar. The endless, obscure realm that has always harbored our fears and curiosities would quite literally become an open book. Remains of shipwrecks, lost cities, like the legendary Atlantis, or traces of vanished civilizations, might suddenly appear, visible to the naked eye, their secrets out in the open for the first time in history. But beauty and wonder would just be the beginning. The practical, physical consequences would reshape ecosystems, everyday weather, global economies, and even our understanding of Earth's biology and geology. Let's first dive into the science of what would instantly change in the ocean's environment. One of the most dramatic results of total transparency would be the penetration of light. In our present ocean, sunlight is absorbed and reflected primarily in the upper layers. This layered absorption regulates Earth's climate, limiting how much solar energy is retained at the surface and influencing the planet's energy balance. If sunlight could plunge right to the abyssal plains, these deep, cold realms would suddenly grow warmer, while upper layers might cool, as surface water loses its monopoly on sunlight absorption. The entire temperature profile of the ocean would shift, and so would the global conveyor belt of currents that rely on subtle differences in heat and salt. Circulation patterns could become more chaotic, with impacts echoing through global weather systems. Droughts may invade some regions, while others become beset by constant rain. Hurricanes and monsoons might shift dramatically. The deep sea's ecology would be reimagined as well. Today, life in the midnight zone, beyond the reach of sunlight, depends on a steady rain of settling organic matter called marine snow, composed of the remains of plankton and animal waste from above. Down in the black, life has adapted to an energy-starved, slow-motion existence, eking out an existence in perpetual darkness, relying sometimes on the heat and chemicals from hydrothermal vents to support entire oases teeming with bizarre, luminous forms. If light could suddenly reach the bottom, photosynthetic organisms, plants and algae, could move in, colonizing habitats virtually untouched since the dawn of Earth's oceans. Coral reefs might spring up on submarine mountains, the slopes of trenches could bloom with colorful mats of seaweed, and enlightened hydrothermal vents might see an invasion of new light-loving species. The food web would become more robust, but it would also drive some deep-sea specialists toward extinction as their carefully balanced world is overrun by newcomers from the sunlit shallows. Animals evolved over eons to avoid predators by dwelling in darkness would lose their natural sanctuary. The giant squid, lurking beyond the reach of all but the wildest imagination and a few grainy photographs, becomes an everyday sight, its strategic invisibility lost. Deep-sea fish that have evolved nearly transparent tissues could now be clearly seen, their glowing organs no longer invisible to predator or prey. The camouflage powers honed in the black would become liabilities, forcing a desperate evolutionary scramble for survival. Consider, too, what this transparency would mean for our relationship with the ocean's past. The seafloor archives billions of years of our planet's history, from meandering submarine canyons carved by ancient rivers during ice ages, to fossilized forests, sites of meteor impacts, and thick, layered sediments stacked with the bones of long-extinct animals. Today, only scientists with special equipment can glimpse these wonders. They must lower cameras or ride in deep-diving submersibles, scanning the darkness with powerful floodlights, catching fleeting glimpses of ghostly shapes before moving on. Now, anyone could look down, perhaps from a plane, perhaps just leaning from a pier, and see the tangled wrecks of ancient ships, submarines, even aircraft lost to the depths, laid out like a museum's collection upon the velvet black bottom. Centuries-old questions about missing explorers and vanished navies might be answered within a single day. Legends such as those of Atlantis would either be confirmed or forgotten as the bottomlands yield their last secrets to the sun. Navigation, too, would radically change, as every obstacle, shoals, reefs, and submerged ridges would be perfectly visible from above. The dangers that plagued sailors for centuries might be easily avoided, making shipwrecks a thing of the past. Fishing fleets could track enormous schools of fish as easily as birds flocking above a grassy plain. Illegal activities, like unreported dumping of waste or shadowy fishing operations, would become instantly visible. Oceanic law enforcement would be transformed. But there are further consequences. Light penetrating to such extraordinary depths would, by necessity, be absorbed and scattered much more efficiently by the sheer mass of water, unless our transparent ocean breaks the laws of physics. But let's assume, for the sake of imagination, that this water transmits light so efficiently that it reveals every corner of the seafloor. Such transparency could increase the rates of photosynthetic activity, leading to a massive expansion of algae and phytoplankton, especially in areas which were previously starved of light. A burst of new life, drawing in new food webs, could radically increase the ocean's biological productivity. At first, this supercharging of the carbon cycle might help sequester more carbon dioxide, combating greenhouse gas buildup in the short term. But if unchecked, the blooms of photosynthetic organisms could outcompete and overwhelm other marine life, smothering regions under a blanket of algae and shifting the very balance of ocean chemistry. Transparency would also shatter the privacy of the deep. Marine mammals, whales, dolphins, seals, adapted to hunt and communicate in a world of sound, not sight, could be disoriented or stressed by the sudden omnipresence of light. The optical landscape would become sensory overload rather than darkness. Sperm whales, who dive kilometers down to hunt squid, might move less confidently through their newly illuminated environment, losing their edge as silent hunters of the abyss. Not to be forgotten, the cultural and psychological impact on humanity would be immense. For thousands of years, the unknown depths fed our imaginations, furnishing tales of dragons, sea monsters, and the wrath of angry gods. The modern mind, rational and scientific, is still moved by the unknowable nature of the deep. With the ocean now transparent, those stories would come crashing against the hard light of reality. Every shadow would be accounted for. Some mysteries would be solved, but others would simply fade, robbing future generations of their power to wonder. Would we mourn the loss of our oldest unknown, trading superstition for knowledge? Or would new curiosities arise, questions about what we found, how it all fits together, and what it means for our understanding of life itself? The effect on art and literature would be no less significant. The ocean's vast, unknowable blue inspires everything from poetry to film to the dreams of children. With its secrets laid bare, artists might turn elsewhere for inspiration, looking, perhaps, to deeper cosmos or the infinitely complex microcosms within our own cells. Tourism could boom, with glass-floored observation decks hanging high above the open sea, selling tickets to see the wonders of the deep. Local economies might profit, but fragile habitats would need careful protection from exploitation. Conservation would become far easier and perhaps more urgent, with the full extent of human impact, plastic trash, lost nets, toxic waste, now glaringly obvious. Cleanup projects and environmental campaigns could draw new support, their arguments backed by the unmistakable evidence visible from every shore. But what about the creatures themselves? Evolution has tuned the bodies and senses of countless animals for life in darkness and uncertainty. Eyeless fish thrive in pitch-black caves and sunless trenches, guided by touch and the faint electric fields around them. Sudden total exposure would upend this balance. Some would evolve anew, developing eyes and countershading. Others might dwindle to extinction as rivals from the surface colonize the new, light-filled depths. Some creatures might alter their behavior dramatically, moving only at night, hiding in sediments, developing new types of camouflage. The ocean as a system would be in flux for centuries. At the same time, the transparency of the ocean might prompt a new era of scientific exploration. Underwater research, once limited by difficulty and darkness, would become almost as accessible as terrestrial fieldwork. Submerged landscapes, coral forests, and whale migrations could be surveyed remotely and in great detail, changing our approach to research and conservation. It would be an age of discovery, one in which planetary biology, climatology, and geology made leaps forward impossible before. We might develop technology to exploit this new clarity, innovating ways to farm the seafloor, harvest new medicines, monitor climate change, or even build submarine cities in illuminated valleys. Still, every silver lining carries a shadow. Some of the ocean's most dangerous pollutants are invisible to the naked eye, dissolved deep within or clinging to microscopic plastics. As transparency exposes some evils, others might continue, hidden from view. The illusion of clarity could encourage reckless exploitation, as humans tend to believe that what they see is all there is. Vigilance, coupled with newfound understanding, would be essential to ensure the health of these newly revealed realms. In all, the transformation from opaque to transparent ocean would rewrite the rules for life on Earth. The blue heart of the planet, once synonymous with mystery, would become an open secret. The physical landscape would shift, climates would wobble, species would adapt or perish, and whole ecosystems would reorganize. The psychological and cultural axis of human experience would tilt as mysteries are unveiled and new ones recognized. Humans, forever curious, would no doubt adapt. The stories we tell would evolve, and so too would the science, the industry, and even our emotional connection with the watery half of our world. Picture a child gazing out over a suddenly transparent ocean, tracing with their eyes the scars and peaks of the seafloor deep beneath. In place of the limitless blue, they see the world's real complexity, its hills and valleys, its forests and fields of waving anemones and glimmering fish. To them, the old terror of the deep becomes something else, not less awe, but awe of a different kind, rooted in truth, complexity, and the interconnectedness of all things. So, what if the ocean became transparent, and we could see to its heart? The secrets of the deep would cease to be secrets. Humanity would glimpse the scale and beauty of the world's submerged worlds. Countless lives would be upended, from the tiniest bacteria to the largest whale. Our own view of the world, its history, its science, its wonder, would expand outward, even as the mysteries of the deep rolled back under the sudden glare of the sun. And somewhere, in the interplay of light and life and seeing, we would find new stories to tell about the world as it is and the world as it might yet become. Thank you for watching the video. What do you think about today's topic? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and share the video to support the channel. Thanks again, and see you in the next video.